Now, a Hutch's weather update with Chief Meteorologist Hutch Johnson, brought to you by Robert Gibb and Sons.
Hello, everybody. My name is meteorologist Hutch Johnson. It's a pleasure to visit with you today. We have an update for you on severe weather that is going to be taking place as we go through the second half of your first weekend of meteorological summer. Sunday storms could be severe. There's been an increase in the risk, and we're going to show you the area, and I'll give you some meteorological analysis on the timing, the track, and where the ingredients are the greatest for the different risks. Make no mistake about it, if you're out and about on your Sunday and you're in the northern plains or the central plains, if thunderstorms form, they could quickly become severe. We're talking huge hail over 2 inches in diameter. Some wind gusts could exceed 70 miles per hour, and we're talking straight line winds here, not the tornadic type. By the way, speaking of tornadoes, there is a risk for some tornadoes, and we could have a few strong ones. So we're going to highlight our area up here in the northern plains and in the central plains where we have the risks. We'll show you all of that, and it's coming up right now. You're watching Hutch's Weather. Let's get started with a look at the risk area from the Storm Prediction Center. As we take a look at that, first thing you want to keep in mind is there are 3 levels of severe weather risk shown here from the Storm Prediction Center. Stretching from the Canadian border, the green area is a level 1. And that's called marginal. That means maybe a storm might reach severe criteria. That's Minot, Bismarck, all the way up to Cheyenne, Wyoming, not far from you, and Denver, Colorado. Des Moines, all the way up to Duluth, marginal chance of severe weather. That means we may have some hail up to about 1 inch in diameter, and we may have some storms that produce winds upwards of 55 miles per hour. It should not be widespread. There'll be just few storms at most. In the yellow area, that's a level 2 on that 5-level scale of severe weather. This includes Grand Forks, Fargo, Sioux Falls, Sioux City, Lincoln, and Omaha, Nebraska. And this level means we're going to see more widespread severe thunderstorms. This is where we could see some significant hail, gusty winds in excess of 70 miles per hour, and yes, some tornadoes. But the enhanced risk is down here in central parts of Nebraska. That's where it sits now as we close out our Saturday. And as we head into Sunday, we may see an update to this. And my gut tells me, indeed, the risk for some tornadoes and maybe a few strong ones is there. I'm going to show you all the analysis on that. If you're watching Hutch's Weather for the first time, welcome. Thank you so much. I'd love to have you drop your name in the comment section here. Let me know where you are watching from. If you have questions, I'd love to be there for you and answer some of those questions for you. Let me know if you have any specifics. I know there's a ton of graduations up here in the Northern Plains. A lot of folks graduating high school, there's parties, and we just want you to stay weather aware. Now, I'm also monitoring streams and questions on a couple different channels here, so I beg your forgiveness as my eyeballs wander to different screens. Let's now talk about a couple of things. We're going to start with a look at the Northern Plains and Central Plains, and thanks, Lisa, for joining from Thief River Falls. Let's take a look. This highlights the best area for our severe weather risk as we go through the next 24 hours. Now, what I'm going to do is we're going to step through the future radar just to give you an idea of where the timing may be the best as we go into the day on your Sunday. So let me get the model that goes out the projected amount of time that we're going to require. Here we go. Now, as we step through time here, what you're going to notice, the time on this is morning. We're going to have hit and miss showers and thunderstorms across the Dakotas. You can see into portions of Nebraska here as well. And I will highlight some different areas of Nebraska as we go further through this broadcast, because central Nebraska could indeed see some very stout and strong thunderstorms as we go through Sunday afternoon. So morning, spotty showers and storms. Gusty south winds are going to begin transporting moisture, and that moisture is the fuel that drives these thunderstorms. Now, see the low pressure center lifting out of the high plains and intensifying. That means the isobars get closer together. And here we go as we go into the early afternoon. This is noon, midday. Now, the showers up north and thunderstorms, while they may be potent, are not expected to be the severe round. Here we go with that. As we get into the heat of the afternoon, generally after about noon to 2 p.m., we're going to start seeing that risk of strong storms really intensify. Notice they begin here, the I-94 corridor, and points north in North Dakota, and watch the direction they move. And another thing I'm going to point out with the pencil here is, well, you can't see my pencil, so I'm just use my hand. My hand works pretty good. This is a warm front, folks. Along warm fronts, we have a little enhanced area of spin in the atmosphere. So for my viewers in North Dakota and in parts of western Minnesota and in South Dakota, when these systems first fire, that's when they'll have the most energy, particularly right along the southern flange of the storms. This activity up north will be more garden variety showers and rumbles of thunder. The main severe event will likely take place right here from Devil's Lake in through Fargo and Grand Forks. As those first storms fire, there's so much energy available that those first storms will have the best chance at seeing some activity fire. And you're looking here at right around the 3 to 5 p.m. time frame. Okay, so as we go through the mid-afternoon and into that dinner hour, that's when things will begin to really take off along the warm front. And again, that could be where we see some spin. Now we're going to analyze each of these different parameters in the atmosphere, the lift that creates the ginormous hail, and also the strong downdraft winds, and also the spin in these thunderstorms that will be available. Notice these storms as we head toward the evening hours, this is after 6 o'clock, become more linear. And then here we see this backward C shape like the cupping of my hand here. That is a bowing line segment. What that means, very gusty straight line winds could be blasting through places like Pequot Lakes, Minnesota, Brainerd, Minnesota, Fergus Falls, Minnesota. And look at this down near Sisseton, South Dakota, Lake Traverse, and on in to portions of southern Minnesota as we go through the night. It becomes more of a wind event and a hail event as we head into the deep overnight hours. The storms are all but done by the time we hit the 10 o'clock hour here in the Red River Valley of North Dakota. And things are really getting going down in portions of Nebraska, as we carry our way through the late afternoon and evening. So here's your storms moving through Nebraska. You can see those. The timing on those in central Nebraska will be the mid-afternoon into the early evening hours, and then heading right into Lincoln and Omaha and Sioux City, Iowa. All of those places, you'll have a chance for some of those stout storms. That's a look at the future radar and the track and the timing of the storms. Many models agree, but I will caution you, as a meteorologist, they don't always agree on the exact track. And honestly, we don't have the skill to tell you where one little pimple of a 10-mile wide storm is going to form on these maps. But it does give us an idea where the energy is. And that's what we're going to look at next. So we've looked at the Storm Prediction Center's forecast and outlook. We're looking at the future radar here. Now we're going to shift gears and we're heading up and we're going to look at some lift in the atmosphere. Where's the large hail? The last ingredient you're going to want to stick around for, folks, and that's the spin in the atmosphere. I see some areas where I am concerned about the potential for some pretty strong tornadoes, even in the slight risk area here in North Dakota and South Dakota. Let me show you what I mean. Now, as we go through, let's go ahead and take a peek then at some severe weather parameters here. And we're going to look at the lift in the atmosphere. The more lift we have, then the larger hailstones that we can support. And by lift, we don't often walk down the street and notice things like, oh, the wind is blowing straight up into the sky and my skirt is blowing up. That doesn't happen to us every day. But would you believe the updrafts in the atmosphere can exceed 50, 70, and 100 miles per hour? They have to be that strong to support hail the size of golf balls, ping pong balls, baseballs, etc. We're going to look at CAPE. That's the convective atmospheric potential energy. What you're looking at here, folks, is where that energy is increasing as we go through Sunday morning. Okay, so that energy lifts into North Dakota, and then right in time for the heating of the day, it takes off. Do you see these areas of bright red here? That energy is very strong, but it's kind of focused here in the southeastern quadrant of North Dakota and most of eastern South Dakota. Look at this. Central Nebraska. Wow, a lot of it. This is also out toward the Panhandle there, not far from you in Scotts Bluff, north of you folks in North Platte, Nebraska. So that's where that energy will be peaking at the perfect time of the day. Brenda, thanks for sharing stars on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, I would love to have you subscribe. Please hit the subscribe button. And if you like what you're seeing here, I'd love to see the like buttons as well. So I'm monitoring all my channels here right quick while we look for your questions. Tammy, good to have you on. I appreciate you. Sandy, for watching. Cheryl, where are you watching from? Park Rapids. Hey, Kayla, good to have you on from Bemidji. All right, this is a look at what we are expecting with regards to the track of the lift in the storm and where that energy is the greatest. So here we go. We showed you some red focusing in and around Fargo. So there's going to be about 3,000 joules of CAPE, we call it, or upward velocity, and that can support some sizable hail. Same thing goes for the high plains there in western Nebraska as we go through the early afternoon. As we go toward the later part of the night now, we're getting into after dinner hour. You see that there's that energy building in places like Omaha, Nebraska and Lincoln, Nebraska. And then it wanes as we go into the late night hours. This is a good sign for how long will the storms last into the deep overnight too, right? That's why on the Storm Prediction Center's outlook, check this out. It went to green on the right side, right? So let me show you this. Again, Storm Prediction Center says the risk for severe weather in Minneapolis, Waterloo, and Des Moines is lower because when we get to the nighttime hours, there's not that support we need for these storms to really rock all night long. Watching from Dilworth, Paula, good to have you on board. Brenda, thank you for watching. Cindy and Plummer, hello, howdy do. Now let's take a look. I promised you a look at the spin in the atmosphere. And we're going to take a look at that real quick, and we're going to do it right now. So let's get back to this, and I'm going to, let's see if it's still up here. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to load up the model that goes out a little bit farther. Okay, here we go. Now, we're going to look at a couple of different models on this, not just one, okay? And we're going to look at some severe weather parameter that includes, this is called the significant tornado parameter. So we can calculate based on all the parameters in the atmosphere where we have that spin, that tight rotation and spin in the atmosphere. Are you ready to see this? The brighter the color is, the greater the spin is in the atmosphere and the higher the tornado parameter is. So we go into the afternoon, look what's happening along that warm front that I was showing you on the hour-by-hour forecast a minute ago. Right here from near Bismarck, this is basically in that Kidder County area all the way out to Fargo-Moorhead, we have some tornado parameter. But do you see it getting red here? Check that out. Let me give you the timing on that so you can see. Now, sometimes we have spin in the atmosphere, but not necessarily thunderstorms. So all of our ducks have to line up in a row for these things to take place. This does not mean a tornado is going to happen here. What it does mean is the environment over North Dakota, over portions of eastern South Dakota have at least some spin in them. And when we take a look at these, the timing on this is in the mid-afternoon around 4 p.m. So I'm going to click on one of these red areas here in North Dakota, not far from places like Buffalo, North Dakota. And it says it's marginal for the risk of a tornado in that area. That doesn't mean it's great. It just means that there is a chance for a tornado in that area at that particular time in the afternoon. Now, as we go through in time just a little bit farther, watch what happens. Those move off into parts of Minnesota here near the I-90 corridor, down south of I-94. And look what's going on near Pierre and Chamberlain. Yep, South Dakota, chance of some stout storms. Look at the bright red taking place there. And it really gets enhanced as we go into the evening hours across portions of South Dakota as well, and also into portions of Nebraska. So there is a risk for some spin in the atmosphere. That's a look at one model's rendition. Let's go to model number 2, shall we? Just because this is fun to show you what meteorologists are looking at for the ingredients. And again, we can have all the ingredients that we need to make lutefisk, right? You got your fish that's been put in lye, and you got your pot of boiling water, and you got your mashed potatoes ready, but it doesn't always turn out to be a great lutefisk dinner. If you're from the Northern Plains, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, now we're looking at a separate model. This is the tornado parameter. This gives us, it's like asking a second opinion here. These are all calculations done by super fast computers. Here we go into your Sunday afternoon, and you see similar trends with an enhanced level of spin in the atmosphere along the Highway 200 and I-94 corridor in North Dakota. Not far from that, say, Kidder County area to Fargo. We have the same area in South Dakota right into Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So if you're anywhere between Watertown and Sioux Falls, there's going to be some spin in the atmosphere as we go through South Dakota. And as we look down a little bit farther south into Nebraska, that spin focuses here. As we head into the evening hours, this is going to be closer to around that 10 o'clock time frame. Brenda says, love the lutefisk reference. I think I can still smell my grandma making it. Yeah. Many of us northerners have had that chance to get a whiff of the lutefisk. So this is a look at where the spin ingredients are in the atmosphere. I'm going to show you Nebraska too, because this is more of a national broadcast as well for my viewers down there. Look at this. Look at this down in towards Kansas. This energy and spin in the atmosphere is why the Storm Prediction Center has said, yep, it needs to be an enhanced risk for severe weather there, just because this spin, this amount of spin is very high. If I click on the area down here, this is near Kearney, Nebraska, if you're aware of it. It says the possible hazard type is tornado, and it can go back through many, many years of data and kind of match it up to similar, what we call atmosphere profiles, and it can match up when and what type of weather we saw. And with this type of a situation, we've seen supercells, we've seen very large hail, and we've seen some tornadoes as well. So that is a look at some of the history behind the type of environment we're going to be in tomorrow. So what can you do? Here's what I want you to do. Make sure that you stay weather aware. Justice, been in the garden. What a great day. Good to see you. Thank you very much for joining me here. Beautiful day. Lutefisk, Rita says, yuck. Yeah, I think that's a pretty popular opinion of the old smelly fish. Couple things to keep in mind. If storms form in your area, and I'll put up behind me the Storm Prediction Center's guidance here as far as where the risk is the greatest for severe weather tomorrow. This doesn't mean we're going to see a tornado outbreak. It doesn't mean everyone in this area is going to get severe weather. It just means anywhere in the yellow and particularly the orange, we have that risk. The risks are, if storms form, you want to stay informed, because those storms that form are forming in an environment where you have all the ingredients for big hail and gusty winds. And some of us, at times, in places, will have the ingredients necessary for these storms to spin and produce tornadoes. Cannot be ruled out in North Dakota, central and eastern South Dakota, and in particularly near the Kearney area. Now, this map is going to change at about 1 a.m., and it's going to change again tomorrow at about 1 p.m. because it gets updated with new forecast model information. But this has been pretty persistent. If you've listened to Hutch at all throughout this week, started seeing the risk for this on Monday and Tuesday and saying, yeah, Sunday looks like it could be strong. So if you have a graduation party, which I know many of you in the Fargo area do, please make sure you're paying attention to the skies, and Hutch will be there for you right here on Hutch's Weather. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Saturday evening. As we glide into Sunday, I'll have an update for you going into the day, and I'll be keeping my eyes on the skies for you. No matter where you are, stay safe. Have a wonderful first weekend of meteorological summer. Again, I'm meteorologist Hutch Johnson. I appreciate your likes on Facebook. I appreciate your follows on Facebook. I appreciate you hitting the like button on YouTube and subscribe as well. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful night, and we will talk again very soon. Stay tuned right here to Hutch's Weather, and stay safe.